Stop, no intermission. Shut up, listen.
Need a magic lamp. One with a genie that could get me what I want. No 3-rule limit. Need me a genie that could get me what I want. Blow me a wish.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Performing the Arts, episode 9 of season 2. My name, as always, is Brian M. Davis, your friendly neighborhood host. Joining me today is, I want to say, a coworker, a colleague, a friend of mine, Rachel Navarro, aka Leaveascar.
Hi, guys.
She could actually present herself much more better than I can.
No, you did. He said it. My artist name is Leaveascar. I make music, and I also act. I have an acting career, if I dare say so myself. And so my name is Rachel Navarro. But right now I'm doing more music, so I'm Leaveascar. Nice to meet you.
Yes, I just wanted to get that more pointed about this since I'm not sure what field I will be talking to her today because I know you have essentially, like any performing artist, you have your hand like dipped into the pool of water that is essentially performing arts. You not only act, you write, you sing, you also write songs. So as a performing artist, I feel like you have a lot of experience to talk about, not only as an actress, but also singer, producer, that sort of thing. So to get us started very easily, how did you get into performing arts, especially something with like singing and acting especially?
Sure. So with the performing arts, I have 2 older sisters, and I wanted to do everything they were doing. And they started acting in off Broadway, and we had a Sunday school that they acted in, and hey, I wanted to do it too. So that got me on stage, and I'm still a quiet person, but I was always a very to myself girl. My grandma always said, Rachel, you're so timid, and I still am, but performing was different. I was allowed to be the center of attention, but then I had all the freedom and comfortability of, oh, it's not really me. This is a persona, or this is a character. So to answer your question, I started performing, I don't know, like 7, 8 years old, which was mostly acting. And then I did a musical theater. Goodness, I was like maybe 10 or 9 years old, and my sisters were the main actors, but I was part of the ensemble, and the show was called Aesop's Fables, and it was just twists on classic stories. So
I know Aesop's Fables. So
yeah. So I was just singing and acting along with them. But I was homeschooled most of my life, and then I started real school in 7th grade, and it was a total just mind-bending thing because all I had to, I guess, have any idea of what schooling was through TV and movies, and it was nothing like that. Shocker,
yes.
right?
Sadly, yes. And it's odd how essentially some of the most, and it's odd how essentially how some of the most TV shows that you watch, like say something like Glee or Degrassi, they kind of like, I don't want to say they Hollywood, like they kind of they don't kind of they Hollywoodize the concept of school when if you know public school or private school in general, it's odd because you meet different people, especially going into school, and when you leave school, you probably see the same people, but they change over the years. But with stuff like, say, Glee and Degrassi, they do kind of keep characters almost the same, because they are essentially caricatures of, say, oh, that's the geek, that's the tech nerd, that's the alpha cheerleader, that's her little squatty, sisters, that sort of thing, But
They kind
when,
of do cliches. It's like, oh,
yeah,
that's a girl.
yes, essentially. So it's weird, especially when you're watching stuff, growing up, especially TV shows. You kind of expect these things. Oh, I meet, will I meet, my Prince Charming boyfriend, during a dance, that sort of thing. When in actuality, you can meet your Prince Charming boyfriend at like some science class, like dissecting a frog or something like that. And it's like it's a very weird thing, especially once you're done with high school or just the primary education, the preliminary school, and move on to essentially like college and stuff like that. It's much more weirder because you are now interacting with people who are either close to your own age or around your own age, and then or older people who are essentially like 10 years from your own age, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's odd how essentially Hollywood has made this concept of education, especially in schools, like a very, very fun thing when in accidentally you could look at any other schools, like, and they could be in like some sort of grading scandal, bullying, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's odd how essentially TV and films kind of like make this into a very glamorized concept, especially when they caricatures or stereotypes essentially into these things.
Yeah, which could work for the storyline, like the weird girl works for the storyline, the bully, it works for a storyline. But what was I gonna say? But basically, so I had, like you said, these fixed ideas, and I just was like, I had no idea what school was. So when
Yeah.
I started school, 12 years old, 7th grade, when I went into class, I just sat at the desk that was available. And then this kid, Kevin, he comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, you're sitting at my desk." And in my head, I was like, wait, no, but in the TV shows, the new girl just sits down and that's her seat. And yeah, there are all these cliches, and those shows, it always focused on the drama, the relationships. And yes, that's the point. But they say one or two lines about homework or
Yeah.
and then, I mean, when did a high school show, when was the last time you heard a high school show talking about the SATs, or like, my mom, okay, well, maybe they do this, like, my mom won't let me leave the house because I'm grounded. It gave you such this like different idea of, it was this drama that grown people kind of have, that these poor 14, 15-year-olds are dealing with. So yeah, it was very unrealistic. So it shot my expectations completely. So I had to adapt. And yeah, shout out to, I don't know if anyone who's been homeschooled is watching this and then you went to real school, if that happened to you, I mean, I feel what you felt.
It's odd essentially though. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, which happens a lot.
Or I was kind of like, let me talk until, and then my thought came back.
Yeah, I literally had a thought and then it just vanished. So, which is a common occurrence on this show. If you've seen my show and if you watch my episodes, I have a lot of train of thoughts, and then the train of thoughts would just leave and vanish, and then I would have my thing. But sometimes I would have a thought and then immediately just like literally just jump out the window and just like, I ain't saying that, and just says goodbye. Anyway, so yeah, in school, did you actually encounter like a theater club, glee club, that sort of thing, or were you essentially like, hey, academic clubs are not really my thing because they're, or was that something like something that wasn't available to you, especially.
Yeah. I honestly completely chickened out when I started high school. I completely chickened out of auditioning for a play. And get this, this is why I didn't, because we sit down, every student who was interested, and the director, who was, you know, maybe an English teacher, I don't
Yeah.
know. But the director is standing there and being all intimidating, like, so I need you to dance, sing, and act. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I've done some of those things before. And I felt most confidence in my acting. I think I always have. But he said, yeah, you have to come up and sing a song and there will be choreography. And I also had a dance background. But something about like the singing thing just really scared me. And I didn't show up. Those weren't even the auditions. That was kind of a, I don't even know, the word isn't coming to mind. But he was kind of just letting you know what this would entail. And I didn't do it. And it bothered me because years later, I reconnected with people that were in the plays at high school, and they were like, oh no, Rachel, you would have gotten in. Like, you didn't have to be good at singing, dancing, or act. I mean, I'm sure you had to have some sort of talent, and I know there were people in the shows, but they said no, like if you were there to do it and you committed and you tried your best, like, oh, I'm sure you would have gotten in. So that was a like, damn it, I really missed out on that kind of a feeling. So no, I didn't do anything creative. I stopped by a couple of debate club meetings. I did a pro-life club for a little while. I did an Italian club. The Asian American club was popping, but I was so, they had their own, this is my thing. I don't know if this happens to you. I'm working on it. But the Asian American club, I could tell like these group of people were already best friends, and they already had inside jokes, and they already had so many experiences together. And of course I was welcome to join, but after just sitting in and hearing about it, again, I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. So yeah, part self-sabotage, part, you know, just innocence, being a 15-year-old, like, I don't know what this is. So I never really stuck to any of those things. I kind of did them for a little bit, and then I was taken out of school. So yeah.
You were taken out of school twice, or were you just taken out of school?
Well,
Yeah.
from age, you know, 0 to 12, I was homeschooled. My mom is, well, she's alive. She's alive, but she was an English teacher. So, and she's a very smart woman, so she educated my siblings and I. But I guess one year, my parents decided they'll go to school. So I went for 7th grade, 8th grade, and then I went to high school freshman year, sophomore year, but I was taken out after sophomore year. So I only had 4 years of that schooling experience. And
Gotcha.
I was in a private Catholic school, so they took me out because they couldn't afford it. I mean, it was expensive.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. I went to a Catholic school, between from, I believe, kindergarten to 8th grade. And of course, I went to different, you know, public schools, that sort of thing. But I also, you know, for Sunday service, you know, Sunday Catholic school, that sort of thing. So it was hard for me to do all that. So yeah. And I was actually a student there for, I want to say, for at least from grades 2 to 5. You know, once I was done with the elementary school, I was in there for at least from like grades 2 or 5, and then essentially moved on to like junior high, high school, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that for the most part, Catholic schools are very, very hard to financially, you know, keep yourself and your children inside school-wise. But yeah, coming off of that though, how did you, it's like once you were done with college, not college, but once you were done with like the whole high school age, where it's just like, okay, you're done with high school, technically, you graduated. I'm not sure what I'm doing air quotes, but you know what I mean. You graduate from.
Because I didn't graduate. I got my GED.
Yeah. Once you got your GED and became essentially done with general education, and you moved on to community college, and this has been popping up most recently in my show, is that a lot of my people who I've talked to have been alumni of the Borough of Manhattan Community College, BMCC, represent. And for the most part, how did you actually come aboard into going to BMCC? Because I know, especially was it just under a liberal arts degree where it's like, okay, I'll just do liberal arts, and I know BMCC has a great liberal arts program, something like that. I'm just in and out in there for like 2 years. So how did you actually become, now, when you went to BMCC, were you automatically a theater student, or did you just discover theater just by chance?
So no, I started out as liberal arts because I think a lot of younger people with big dreams, a lot of times they just kind of, listen, I thought it was going to happen to me. It's okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to happen to me. It might, we'll see. But I was a liberal arts major. In my heart, I still was like, oh, one day I'm going to be a big star, movie star, tour the world doing my music. When you're just like this excited with the dream. So I thought, I don't have to have that as major. And I don't know why I thought that. So I did liberal arts, and I did it for 1 semester. And after the first week, I was bored out of my mind, and I changed my major to theater. So, but I took all the required courses that you have to do anyway. I completed that, which put me on track for the next semester. And then I studied theater, and I like to say the rest is history because things got really cool once that chapter of my life began.
All right, I'm going to pause for a second because I want to see what my brother was. So give me a second.
It's ironic.
Yes. And we're back. No, I'm sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulty I had before. So, yeah. And I just realized I've been up on my chair the whole time. So it looks like I've been...
so much. I hope it's okay. I don't know if you've noticed, like when we hang out, I'm very I move, I'm fidgety, I'm like a little monkey. I like to...
I'm like that too, but it's mostly because of just general hyperactivity. So it's mostly just to keep my energy in motion. But yeah, BMCC. I've talked about this before in the past, but I remember having an advisor there, not like theater advisor, but just like the college advisor. And he basically told me straight up, hey, if you go to the theater arts program, you probably won't be able to graduate in like a year and a half. You'll be stuck. You'll be stuck here an extra year and a half. That's what he told me. And I was like, no, I want to be an actor because I want to be an actor. I want to study everything, that sort of thing. And the sad thing is that when I was transferring into BMCC, I should have just got to BMCC as a fresh student, because if I was as a fresh student, I would have relearned everything. But stupid me, I decided to just transfer over because I was a student at Kingsborough Community College, and I feel like that really screwed me over, because in terms of their studying at Kingsborough Community College, like I had good theater professors there, but they weren't really as good as the ones I would have at BMCC. So it was like, and I would see the stuff like I would see stuff from Papa Cheese's acting one class, or Key's acting one class, or stuff like that, and I'd be like, wow, I kind of wish I would be able to take those classes, but I can't, because technically speaking, I've already done my, intro to acting, acting 1, acting 2, that sort of thing. And, so.
Well, I'll tell you, not to cut you off, but I'm cutting you off. I love when people say that, and now I'm doing it. I'm sorry. You could finish
No, that was my thought. Is that
Because you said you wanted to continue acting with them. I send her self tapes, and she gives me notes, and she helps me adjust, and she gives me feedback. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's personally the only person. I mean, she offered it to me. She was kind enough to write it on Facebook, and then I reached out. Hey, can you give me feedback on this audition? This audition. Um, so the connection can stay. You just have to reach out. I mean, luckily she don't charge me. She should be charging me, but I don't know, she doesn't, and it's fantastic. And I appreciate it. But if there's an acting class, or I mean, do you talk to the professors at all? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure you could just keep in contact with them.
No, I mean, in terms of when I was a student at BMCC, I just transferred into it as a fresh student so I could actually relearn all the stuff I would have totally on relearn this stuff. But going as a transferee at BMCC, I feel like it wasted my potential because I really didn't have the sense of like acting as I did when I took, theater at Brooklyn College. Because at Brooklyn College, I feel like I have much more of a strong grasp in acting now more than ever, because not only do I feel like I have, goals and that sort of thing, it feels like it's sort of like, the best way to describe it, skipping the tutorial to like a video game. It's like, oh, I know the tutorial already, and you just skip to the thing, but you kind of like want to play that tutorial anyway because, you haven't played this, you haven't played this game in like, say, a year and a half or something like that, a couple of years. And tutorial allows you to like, hey, R1 allows you to shoot, R2 allows you to reload, that sort of thing. And here's you just going, I know how to do it. I know this game. And then when you're playing the game, you're kind of like very rusty. So, like, but yeah, I definitely do keep in contact with my former professors, that sort of thing. And I would love to have at least a blockade of this show to actually talk to professors of theater and performing arts. So, yeah, I've been actually thinking about doing that idea, but I'm not sure how to actually frame it, especially. Anyway, so.
Are you not going to share it? Okay, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just an idea that I'm just going to be thinking about for the next couple of weeks.
Keep brewing it. No,
but yeah.
I like what you said about skipping the tutorial, because after years of acting, I mean, technically I've been acting for like 15 years. Even the years I wasn't acting, I would like to think that when I was watching TV, watching my favorite actors like Kate Winslet, I'd be like, ooh, I love what she's doing, and try to, that's not acting, but when you have enough training, and we've trained a good amount, there are certain things that you already know how to do, or technical things, or it could be internal things. And that is amazing. So then when you audition or just given a script, because that's amazing when that happens, you kind of just go to your little box of tricks and research, and you make that character three-dimensional without being like, oh my gosh, how do I sound? Because you're past that.
Yeah, essentially. And I will say that, like, the moment you are given a script and you are given essentially free reign on that script, it's like one of the most joyous feelings to actually do. But yeah.
Exciting. Well,
so going back to BMCC, you mentioned that, you sort of like me, the first semester I was there, I wasn't just technically a theater student. I was only a liberal arts major, because I think it's because I wasn't exactly able to change my major until like the next major changing. So by the end of that semester, I was able to change it to theater. So going into essentially your second semester and the rest of your time at BMCC, how was it like not only performing on stage there, but just like getting the experience from different professors, hanging with different students, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, I started theater, and it was so perfect because my schedule, and I still have my notebooks from school, and something really amazing that I write, and I've been writing my whole life. Um, I would write down not only fascinating things or things I found interesting that my professors say, but I would write down actual quotes that they said. Like I would put in parentheses quotes, and I still have those notebooks. And I'm actually in the process of, I have Evernote, which it automatically saves all your notes. I do that especially when lyrics come to my head. I'm like, ooh, let me write it. Automatically saves it. Um, so I don't know, like this feeling. I don't know if it's just for someone who hasn't had that many years of schooling, or maybe I
Yeah.
was so excited because I was starting to really pursue my passion. Like it felt like my heart was smiling. I know that sounds kind of silly.
No, no, that's not really. Like as you said, yeah,
Just like
there is,
exciting,
there is,
like oh, like
there is something special when your professor offers up nuggets of essentially nuggets of quotes that I would have professors who would do that in the past, and there's a funny story. Is like I would have last year my film professor, I would always use like idioms, like these rare quotes, and he would look at the class and goes, "Remember that phrase? It might be on the test." So I'd be like, I would literally just like write down what he just said, put in like quotations, and then just put like a little star right next to it. So it'd be like, and I'd be looking at that quote. I'd be like, if I'm looking at my notes, I'd be like, and I see that quotation, and then that star, I'm like, I can't remember that quote. Okay. So yeah.
yeah. I love that because I guess we're both big note takers. I'm obsessed with taking notes, and yeah.
I miss taking notes. So yeah, it's like I was someone. But yeah, especially now that I have a laptop, it was sad that because of coronavirus, it's like I have a laptop finally to use for school. I don't have to use my notebook anymore. I don't have to worry about getting my hand all hurting after writing like a few notes. And then a month and a half into the semester, all shit was wrong. It was like one big cluster. But yeah, that's a story for that time.
I mean, that's completely life changing. I know your schedule completely altered.
Yeah, especially when it came from we had essentially on-site campus classes to essentially off-site campus online classes.
And were you taking performing classes? Because how was the transition?
Okay, so this past semester I had 2 classes. One was a devising class, so we were actually creating our own little play festival that we would have been producing and performing at the end of April going into May. And I was also in a props class creating my own props for like hypothetical stuff, and I was only able to create at least one prop. And the other props I've had were around the house, that sort of thing, and it was like not as best as it was going to be. So yeah, it was an odd thing because this was essentially the class, which was essentially over Zoom, that sort of thing, or be over Blackboard, that sort of thing. So it's odd how essentially this past semester, especially since some of us were graduating, how essentially it ended up essentially just being almost like a FaceTime just between us classmates, and some of us would lie in bed, listen to the professor, talking to the professor, that sort of thing.
It's weird. It's just a total dynamic switch.
Yeah, the coronavirus thing, especially around Brooklyn College, was like the most weirdest time, because the last day I was there was like you could just sense everyone was just off. It was like you could just sense everything was off. And then later that day, they just said, "Hey, just don't worry about tomorrow. We're closing the campus for 2 weeks," and 2 weeks became a month, and then essentially CUNY was like, "You know what? if these colleges are closed, we might as well just close the rest of the school semester. So, yeah. As a theater maker, it felt very bittersweet because all the stuff that we were gearing towards at the start of the semester, especially with devising, it really couldn't shine through because you need to have a stage, you need to have the lights on you, you need to have an audience. So doing it over like this, like, over the computer, that sort of thing, it was doable, but it wasn't the same experience. And it's weird because I just had the same conversation today for one of my other guests, Joe, and you and I both know Joe. It's like we both had him for like a director, and it's odd how essentially, even though Zoom performances or Zoom plays might be a reality for the next couple of months, or at least towards the end of the year, the show life for this thing could only be so much because after a while, people will just get tired of seeing, like, I don't want to see it. It's like, I love using Zoom to promote this stuff, but how, there's something about the roar of the crowd and the audience just to make you actually want to actually keep on going, especially with you as a singer, which I'll get to in a little while. With you as a singer, singers and musicians have to live off the crowd itself, because if the crowd doesn't like the song, or it's like, okay, I understand you don't like the song, so we'll just do a little old school song and keep you, that sort of thing. So, and in theater, you have to be adaptable too. So, yeah, it was a weird feeling, not only as a theater artist, but also just being a theater major in general, because here's what I've been gearing up towards graduation, and then graduation just ended up just becoming Brian Davis, with someone reading my voice off the computer, just like, I'm like, yay, I'm graduated and all this.
But you still graduated.
Yes, I still graduated,
Still graduated. You don't have to go back because it's still going to be Zoom in the fall. So
yes.
graduate.
That's if I want to do the master's degree, but I always joke, it's like, yeah, I'm doing my master's in 10 years. So it's like,
right. If we could do it like in person.
I'm like, yeah, I'm doing my master's in 10 years. And that's if I actually do want to do my master's too.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about, you need the audience when you do theater, because that's the whole difference of film versus theater. Obviously, technically it's different, but having a live crowd reacting, laughing, crying, oohing, awing, that's not like, yes, you put it on Zoom, and I did Zoom plays. I've done Zoom plays over the past couple of months.
Which I'm not like shaming or anything. The fact that people do Zoom plays, I love that. It's like, I love the idea. It's just that.
Well, at least we're doing something. At least we're doing something. But it's absolutely not the same. And even if we live on Zoom and we could hear people breathing, like the audience breathing, I don't know, it's still not the same. You're still not in the set with the lights and the prompts. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with music too. I mean, I'm pretty much just an online musician now, which the antisocial part of me is thrilled with that, because I could do an interview and I don't have to wear pants, and I could perform live and I don't have to be anxious about talking to people after the show, even though I'm excited. I still get nervous. I don't. So, but I still miss it. It still was something that I was finally getting more confident at learning, as far as I'm saying, performing my music live. Because theater, I think I faced a lot of fears when it comes to theater, thankfully, and acting. But it's completely not the same, and it's sad, and we are in limbo.
Yeah.
And we gotta see how things unravel.
talking about that actually just brings up a good point that I wanted to make was between theater crowds and music crowds, have you seen any difference between the crowds? Because I know music crowds are much more vocal. Theater crowds are much, well, they can't be much more vocal because they're watching the show, but when they're interacting with the show, it's like they're like, like, but, with musical crowds, but, with
concert
music,
goers.
concert goers are much more vocal, that sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know how Brian, there's like certain theater etiquette. Like you don't go through your candy wrapper. You don't go on your phone when there's a play going on. If you don't like the play, you sit there and you take it and you daydream and you fall asleep quietly, but you can't snore.
Yeah.
But when you're performing music, if someone doesn't like what you're doing, that don't matter. They can be on their phone, they could roll their eyes, they could leave, and all of that has happened to me, except for the rolling eyes part. But what I'm saying is there's not really etiquette when it comes to someone performing music, because people are so much more, I think, skeptical when they see someone performing music. When it's theater, it's this fixed play that has been rehearsed for weeks. When you're just going up as a music artist, it's just like, who is he? Who is she? What's their story? And it's not necessarily a mean, judgy thing, but they're looking and they're seeing, do I like them? Do I like this kind of music? Do I like what they sound like? Maybe I just like the way he or she looks. And the crowd, I will say the difference is there's not really etiquette when it comes to a music crowd. There is etiquette when it comes to a theater crowd.
Yeah, that is true. I will say that theater crowds much more maintained and contained compared to a music crowd where it feels a lot more in your face, like really, really energetic, And the weird thing is, I haven't really been to many concerts, but I've seen concerts. I've been to a concert movie, which is, I just, like last year, my brother,
Concert movie?
Yeah, that's essentially when a band films a concert and they release it as a public movie. So.
Oh, gotcha. Like when Katy Perry did her Part of Me thing, that kind of.
And last year, Metallica did S&M 2, Sympathy in Metallica, which was the anniversary of their first Sympathy in Metallica concert 20 years before. They did it in San Francisco again, and just seeing that film on screen was pretty much like watching a concert as it was happening. And of course, you have the people who are right next to you. My brother and I we're just enjoying this thing. We're singing along to the song. But of course, like any other concert, you have like a drunk jackass that's right next to you who is just like, yeah, come on, Metallica, just like really, really being a drunken jackass, of course.
Yeah. No, so, I've had to do some reckless people while I was an audience member, and it drives you nuts. But I don't know, people just are the way they want to be. If you're at a concert, a lot of people, if you drink, you're gonna drink at a concert. If you get high, you're gonna get high if you're seeing one of your favorite acts. Which doesn't justify their behavior, but again, it's a very different experience.
It's a very different experience compared to theater. But keeping on the track of theater and music, venues and theaters itself. Do you have a preference to which theater or venue you like to perform at? Because I know you performed in the Lower East Side, the Bowery. I know you performed in Williamsburg. You performed in, off-Broadway plays, black box theaters, that sort of thing. So in terms of actual, venues and that sort of thing, do you have a preference to which type of venue you want to play at? Do you prefer the more intimate, it's a back room inside some bar, only like maybe 10 seats, a low ceiling, but a good acoustic level? Or do you prefer something like, a stage like a community theater, high ceiling, but you have to really enunciate your lines, and so making sure that people in the top row can still hear you, even though there's like a third of like that many people inside, just like, and like what you said before, like they could be like watching you very dully, someone could be sleeping, that sort of thing. So in terms of your preference, do you prefer the more small, intimate places, or do you prefer something like a more larger stage where it could actually be more expressive?
As far as music or
Both.
acting?
Both.
So the thing with theater, I've done very intimate theater stuff, and someone being this close to you, and actually the last live show I did up in Auburn, a kid decided to sit at my co-stars like focal point. We were supposed to be looking at that thing, and that thing was a stain on the wall, and the kid sits right on at our eye level. And of course, we're being professional, we're handling it, so we kind of shift and look a little bit more, because we can't just stare down this kid. He's going to be like, who are these people? He didn't know what was going on. So and it was an intimate stage. In fact, it was so intimate that the stage we were at, the audience, with the people that organized it, they put the audience's seats on the stage, so to get an idea of the intimacy. It helped me. Intimate shows help me with confidence and with adapting. So when I did the intimate stuff at Bowery, and you came to my first ever singing music performance, which was a big shift, and it was the challenge, and it was my first, so it wasn't wonderful, but I did have a great time doing it. And I don't know, I just look back at like I laugh because I don't know, I've gotten better since then, but it's also like, dang, like that girl really tried. But it was good because I got to see how someone who doesn't know you and knows you're about to perform, they want to talk to you. So a lot of people that when I perform my music, they're so interested in you before you go on it. It's, oh, you do music? Oh, what kind of music? Oh, when are you going on? So that's completely different than when you're in theater and you're preparing in the back and you're getting ready. Now when you're singing, you get to like mingle until you go backstage to do some warm-ups, but for the most part you're there. And then they want to see, is this person totally different than the girl that I'm talking to? So that has been cool. And then I think the largest theater I've performed at was the Tribeca one. As far as acting is concerned, I don't like size wise. I mean, I will say, when I did the show, What They'll Remember, and I'm pretty sure you came to it, when I played a prisoner.
Yeah.